We're going to get started. You ready, Lieutenant Governor? Okay, good morning, everyone. Let me just welcome everyone out to our press conference this morning. Before we get started, I just want to acknowledge our acting Governor Sheila Y. Oliver, who is here. Assemblywoman Brittany D. Timberlake, who is with us. Assemblyman Tom P. Giblin. Stacy Burgers, President and CEO of Housing Community Development Network of New Jersey. Our Chairman of the East Orange City Council, Chairman Chris Awe. Our Councilman who hails from the 4th Ward, Councilman Gassim Gomez. And to all of you that are present, and to our business administrator that's here also, thank everyone for joining us this morning. And as I said again, good morning, good afternoon to all, and thank you to Acting Governor Sheila Y. Oliver, who is always welcome here in the city of East Orange, and we're very grateful and honored that they chose to have this press conference here this morning. I'd like to openly recognize and commend the steadfast efforts of the Murphy's administration in prioritizing affordable housing and property tax release. It is these efforts that help clarify New Jersey as an ideal, affordable place to live and raise a family. The leadership of our Governor, Phil Murphy, and Acting Governor, Lieutenant Governor Sheila Oliver, truly understands that whether a resident rents or owns, the need for financial relief is essential and paramount in New Jersey. And with nearly $22 billion in redevelopment currently happening underway right here in my administration, it is not only committed to housing affordability, but we are also committed to ensuring the people in our community have access to the knowledge and resources that enhance their quality of life. Housing in America is a right and should never be a privilege. We are so grateful for this anchor that our governor and acting governor, Lieutenant Governor Sheila Oliver, along with the delegation down in Trenton, put together, because we know how important it is right here in the city of East Orange, where sometimes people have to make a decision between paying a mortgage or sending their kids to a daycare, paying their rent or sending their kid to school or to a daycare, or making that decision to pay for groceries. This is unprecedented anchor program speaks directly to the needs of the people, and it delivers direct and immediate assistance to many of our residents right here in the city of East Orange, so then they can live here as long as they can. We quite often hear people say very quickly that they can't afford New Jersey, but this is now a gateway with this anchor that those who own property here and those who rent here. Because here in East Orange, we are driving the charge that we are one city, that we are one community, that we have one goal, and that goal equals progress. And Acting Governor, we stand with you on that road to progress by working together to make New Jersey a stronger and brighter, more affordable state for all of us, and especially here in the city of East Orange. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce someone who really doesn't need an introduction, who has always been here for the city of East Orange, our Acting Governor, Sheila Y. Oliver.
Thanks, Mayor Green.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That wasn't too long, though.
Good afternoon, everyone. As Mayor Green said, I am no stranger to this building or this plaza. I am a proud resident of the city of East Orange. And in the city of East Orange, we always prioritize what is important to the people that live and work and own businesses here. East Orange, when you talk about housing, and Governor Murphy, who has been here many, many times, knows that it was very important in his FY23 budget to prioritize major investment in housing. I'm proud to call East Orange my home. for over 40 years, and we are no strangers to these conversations around affordable housing. Nearly 50 years ago, a landmark decision was reached in New Jersey, resulting in what is known as the Mount Laurel Doctrine. While many of you may be aware of what this is and what it did for affordable housing in New Jersey, many still don't know or don't comprehend what the Mount Laurel decision passed down by our Supreme Court in New Jersey really did. For the average New Jerseyan looking for an affordable and decent place to call home, for the first time ever in New Jersey, the ruling set forth to direct the state to create reachable goals for the production of housing in all 564 municipalities around the state. Many municipalities around the state were resistant to the creation of affordable housing, as if the word affordable housing denoted something that was not good. Affordable housing is needed by every sector of our population in New Jersey, from our police, our fire, our teacher, our daycare aide, those that work in government. Affordable housing is something that everyone needs to have access to in our state. Think about those working class people, and think about our first responders, our medical care providers, and young families who are just starting out, wanting to, get their feet wet, be it in, a rental or in a starter home as first-time home buyers. The cost of housing in this state was out of reach for them. This doctrine reflected the constitutional obligation of each municipality to help fix this issue. But nearly 50 years later, the issue still remains. Governor Murphy and I understand that there have been many challenges along the way. There simply hasn't been enough funding to see these projects through to completion, with the rising cost of real estate, building supplies, and labor. And of course, the pandemic put a crimp into the nonprofit sector and the for-profit sector moving their projects along. Our budget this year is one of the ways in which our core values are reflected in our administration. And Governor Murphy and I are meeting the moment and facing these housing challenges head on in a couple of different ways with the Fiscal Year 2023 budget. By maintaining the Affordable Housing Trust Fund for what it was meant to do, create affordable housing. We have continued to make unprecedented investments in creating more affordable housing opportunities for people in New Jersey, from one end of the state to the other. Governor Murphy has committed in this budget an additional $305 million in state recovery fiscal funds for a new housing affordable production fund. This fund will provide and aims to complete all of the viable Mount Laurel decision negotiations for every community across the state, and it will allow us to make housing, affordable housing, available in each municipality. Which is very important. For a long time, when you talked about affordable housing, you thought about just our urban cores around the state. But every town needs affordable housing, and people need to have choices in terms of what community they choose to live. This will allow us to deploy additional housing resources to other critical goals, such as the rehabilitation of existing affordable housing, particularly in towns like East Orange. We know that one of the strengths we have in East Orange is the abundance of residential housing. I have said for many years that East Orange's true priority is to maintain our town as a place where there is residential housing. We are what I call a bedroom community. You see our train station over there. You see that we are a link to people who use mass transit. And we have attracted many new residents to our town because of the transit link. In addition to the Affordable Housing Production Fund, this budget also provides a 25% increase in funding for the state's down payment assistance program. And this is a program that I love. I love this program. You know, a lot is said about intergenerational wealth and how there's a wealth gap, you know, particularly in underserved or black and brown communities. The down payment assistance program, which, by the way, our city government here operates one with CDBG dollars, but this down payment assistance fund will help families who thought home ownership was just not something that they could ever accomplish. Our New Jersey Housing Mortgage Finance Agency administers this program, and this is something that I believe strongly in. I believe the way to tamper down the gap in intergenerational wealth is to help families become homeowners. Why? Because when that family becomes a homeowner, there now is an asset that can be passed along to the next generation, and the ability to live in a house that you own really begins wealth building. The governor often speaks about New Jersey as the state of opportunity, but sometimes there's lack of opportunity for people who don't have a roof over their heads, which is why this is a top priority in our administration. We have created also the state child tax credit, a back-to-school tax relief program, a state child tax credit, and we also have created a municipal relief fund. We know that creating affordability has been a priority of the governor in this budget. I want to thank the legislators who are here with us today from the 34th, Assemblyman Tom Giblin and Assemblywoman Brittany Timberlake. And you all know, yes, you can give a hand clap to Brittany and Tom. And you know that since Brittany came to the Assembly, she has prioritized housing and access to affordable housing. And she has done so based on the work she has done professionally with the establishment of the Essex County Land Trust. And with that, I am going to turn the mic over to Assemblywoman Brittany Timberlake.
It don't move. This is not tall friendly. I want to speak on behalf of all the tall people of America. This microphone should move. You know, someone must not like me very much putting the press conference together to have me following our great queen, Sheila Oliver, our lieutenant governor, our acting governor today, because every time she speaks, I'm always so incredibly moved. And I know that she comes from a place of experience and having grassroots knowledge. I know that something her and I have in common is being involved with so many housing organizations very early on in our career. So I'm so proud that she is the DCA commissioner as well as our lieutenant governor and today our acting governor. And she's been a champion for housing for so long. To Mayor Ted Green, thank you so much for having this here, and to the governor, of course, for selecting this location. And I see Council President Christopher Awe, as well as Councilman Kasim Gomez in the front row here. Thanks so much for being here. You know, of course, to my colleague Tom Giblin as well, and my friends from the Housing and Community Development Network, rock stars. You know, it's hot, so I'm not going to be before you long. But the reason why I focus on housing is because it is the bedrock, the absolute foundation, and I mean all puns intended, of wealth building in this country. And for years and years and years, Black and brown people were legally kept out of opportunities to build that wealth through homeownership. So when the Lieutenant Governor is talking about homeownership really being that tool, we have to always make sure that we have that access. It's about the $305 million that was committed for this housing production fund, which is absolutely phenomenal. That's going to clear the backlog of what is required under the Mount Laurel Doctrine. It is about creating rentals, creating homeownership opportunities. It is about making sure that every single time you see a crane in the sky to build a big building, that it also include a percentage of affordability. Not doing so is really just disregarding the history of the hurdles that we have been made to jump as Black and brown people. So, you know, when you hear me talk about housing, when you see us fighting for housing, when you see, you know, my housing friends gathered who, you know, we all work together in major coalitions and the support of, you know, the Lieutenant Governor, of course, when you see us do that, it's for a real specific reason. And that's to make sure that everyone has true access to the American dream, that everyone can truly afford to purchase a home or to rent and to live in any community that they so choose. That's what it's about. I'm very proud of the Anchor tax program, because we know that property taxes being so high have also contributed to the foreclosure crisis. And I'm very grateful that through the legislature and through the governor's office and the lieutenant governor, that we now have this Anchor program, which is going to be putting upwards of $1,500 back into the pockets of New Jersey property taxpayers. But we also know that in addition to committing the funds, we have to do the policies around reversing a lot of the systemic red tape that has been put upon housing. There is something called redlining, where we didn't have access to different mortgages, or in depressed communities, maybe the interest rate is higher to deter ownership and all of these different things. Okay, we've seen government in the past, we've seen government doctrines and indeed restrictions said, hey, this housing is available for just white soldiers coming home from war, but not the Black soldiers. And this subsidized housing funded by the government. We've seen these things and we know that they're in existence, and it's great that we're going to do something about it as far as money. We also have to do that smart policy as well. And I've always worked in partnership with the governor and the lieutenant governor as well. And I'm hoping that, speaking of that smart policy, I wouldn't be who I am today if I didn't mention, I'm hoping that that also includes the signing of the Community Wealth Preservation Bill, which will remove a lot of the systemic barriers around foreclosures and make sure that the people in this community, as New Jersey consistently ranks one of the highest in the nation of foreclosures, and leading that statistic are our Black and brown communities. This is something that can help reverse that. And I'm looking for that partnership in my friend, the governor, who's done phenomenal work around housing, with preserving the Housing Trust Fund, and working with the legislature on so many other wonderful programs. Thank you.
This next legislator is no stranger to the city of East Orange. As a matter of fact, he was born in the city of East Orange. Yeah, you can give him a hand clap for that. Assemblyman Tom Giblin also is always on the ground. Everyone knows Assemblyman Giblin. There is not a charitable cause, a nonprofit organization, or a community movement that he has not supported through the years. Tom Giblin.
Good afternoon to Lieutenant Governor Sheila Oliver. Thanks for coming to this press event here in the great community of East Orange, New Jersey. I was raised maybe about a mile from here when I was a kid. I remember distinctly Sheila pushing me in the baby carriage during those years. But I was raised in a three-family house, which was typical of our neighborhood just over the border in Newark. And just thinking about this today on the way down here, I was thinking what the rents were. You know, for a one apartment might be $65 or $70 a month. And if somebody got a rent increase of $10, boy, that was harry-carry as far as the household budget is concerned. So I guess you got to put that in perspective going those years back. But as we know, East Orange is kind of the crossroads of New Jersey, and a lot of things that are happening in this community under the leadership of Mayor Ted Green are typical of many other communities across the state. When people make decisions as far as where they're going to live, and most especially if they have kids, you know, they kind of think things out a bit. They wonder about the schools. They wonder about recreation. They wonder about the business district. They think about public safety. But far and away, the number one item is housing affordability and the ability eventually to own a piece of property in the community. And East Orange reflects that very much so. I think people got to remember, whether it be this November or succeeding Novembers that come up, that New Jersey homeowners and renters made their voices known. And the legislature, especially the Democratic members of that legislature, worked in concert with Governor Phil Murphy to develop the Anchor program. This is extremely critical, trying to deal with the issue of property taxes. We know that New Jersey's up there at the top as far as property taxes is concerned, and that significant amount that's coming to the benefit of homeowners through that Anchor program is extremely important. And a group that in the past a lot of times were left out of the equation was renters. Renters are going to be receiving a check in the early part of 2023 to help them with the cost of affordability in terms of their individual apartment or housing unit. I want to acknowledge the, go ahead, let's give it for Governor Murphy and Lieutenant Governor Sheila Oliver. I think that with Sheila, with her additional responsibilities as the Commissioner of Community Affairs, she's been on the ground and so close to all of the happenings across the 566 communities that comprise New Jersey, that she's really made this one of her special concerns, and her rhetoric, but her actions are what counts, and I think she's demonstrated that here with the passage of the anchor program. As I was going to mention, we're privileged today to have Stacy Berger here. Stacy's work speaks for itself over the years about being at the forefront of leadership roles that encompass, housing. And anytime I receive a piece of correspondence or email or her support of certain pieces of legislation, I take a special look at that, and then 99% of the cases I'm on board as far as where she's pointing us to. So we're all here on a festive occasion on this great day. As I initially said, East Orange is kind of at the crossroads. What's happening here in this community should be reflected across New Jersey. We want strong, vibrant communities. It's part of the success of our great state. So it's my honor to be in a position to vote positively for this legislation and all of the great benefits that will be derived from that. And all I can say is I'm a phone call away, working in concert with my colleague, Brittany Timberlake. She keeps me up to speed because she's had a lot of good roles in the past, and then currently working with the Mayor Green administration to kind of keep me tuned in and really up to speed about where we should be moving. So thanks for this opportunity, and let's have a great balance of the summer, and glad to be here in the city of East Orange.
Thank you so much, Assemblyman Giblin, for those very kind words. I almost never disagree with my good friend and colleague, Assemblywoman Timberlake, but this microphone is exactly the right height. So, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much, Acting Governor Oliver, Assembly members Timberlake and Assemblyman Giblin, and Mayor Green for hosting us today, and for inviting myself and my colleagues to join you here. And especially thank you for your leadership in creating this historic housing budget. I'm Stacy Berger. I'm the president and CEO of the Housing and Community Development Network of New Jersey, the statewide association of nearly 300 nonprofit community development corporations, housing champions, and private sector partners working to make sure that everyone can afford to call New Jersey home. We are working together to ensure that everyone can access housing, because housing is a basic human right. And it is a wonderful day to acknowledge that our elected officials and the leadership of our state are working to make that a reality for everyone. I want to thank the governor, the acting governor, and DCA commissioner, because if you want somebody to do two jobs, you probably have to get a woman to do it, right? The Senate president, the speaker, and the members of the legislature for crafting and passing a budget that makes transformational, once-in-a-lifetime investments in New Jersey's housing market to address our housing scarcity. The fiscal year 2023 budget represents truly an unprecedented level of investment for housing affordability, stability, and community revitalization. It preserves full funding at nearly over $100 million in New Jersey's Affordable Housing Trust Fund, as well as establishes the Affordable Housing Production Trust Fund to address the backlog of homes that need to be built under the Mount Laurel agreements. It also expands the popular Neighborhood Revitalization Tax Credit Program. We can ring chimes for that. That program is the tax credit. We call it the little tax credit that can. It had about $15 million, and with the investment from this budget, it'll go up to $22 million, a little bit over, and that's something that we continue to work to make sure is implemented. It also provides critical resources to address and prevent childhood lead poisoning, which continues to plague our communities and our next generation. So we are grateful for that. And as everyone else has noted, it includes investments for the state's hardworking families in the form of the new Child Tax Credit Program, and it expands property tax relief for tenants finally through the Anchor program. So thank you and congratulations for making all of that happen. These are investments that provide the highest level of public support for housing affordability, security, and stability in New Jersey's history. This has never happened before, and it would not have happened without the leadership of many of the folks here today, as well as Governor Murphy. We witnessed, take a minute and celebrate that. Prior to the Murphy-Oliver administration, New Jersey witnessed a decade of disinvestment and 8 very long and painful years of a former governor diverting every single penny from the Affordable Housing Trust Fund for his austerity agenda. As a result, our economy and our residents suffered as more than $1 billion that should have been used to help make New Jersey more affordable vanished into thin air. New Jersey residents who earn less continue to suffer from this crisis that was created as a result of that disinvestment. The pandemic, as the acting governor noted, exacerbated this situation, and it was even more deeply so for our Black and brown residents and neighbors. We cannot solve our education gap, our health outcomes, our health disparities rather, without addressing the racial wealth gap, which is inexorably linked to housing affordability, security, and stability. Systemic racism, segregation, and redlining created a housing market that simply does not provide enough homes for people who need them. It allows landlords who are unscrupulous to engage in what we are seeing now, which is a just unbelievable price gouging on people who can barely keep a roof over their head, and to utilize punishing evictions when folks can't pay the rent, and then to turn to foreclosure as well. We need to create more homes that people can afford, as well as strengthen home ownership and rental opportunities for Black and brown families to keep and expand generational wealth that comes through home ownership. I can't even pretend to do as good a job as my friend Brittany Timberlake did on explaining the mechanisms of where we got to, but we know that we need to address the way that people are able to access home ownership. We know New Jersey needs 200,000 more affordable homes to address our current shortage, and so we are deeply grateful to the Murphy-Oliver administration and the legislature for this historic, unprecedented level of housing funding. We're pleased to see the increase in the NRTC, the Neighborhood Revitalization Tax Credit, which has a proven track record of bringing jobs, homes, and businesses to new areas. And the budget also continues to invest in at-risk tenants by continuing to support the eviction protection program, which is being led by the Lieutenant Governor, Acting Governor Oliver, in her role as DCA Commissioner. And we cannot say enough good things about the eviction protection program that is currently underway. It is keeping people safely and stably housed, and we need to do more of that. There's much more that we can and we will do together, including, I hope, the policies that the Assemblywoman referenced. We are also watching Congress and continuing to press for housing investments that New Jersey can deploy through the ongoing budget reconciliation process. Prioritizing housing affordability at the local, state, and federal level creates the foundation for a more affordable New Jersey for generations to come. Again, we thank and congratulate Acting Governor Oliver, Governor Murphy, members of the legislature, and everyone who helped make this historic budget possible. Thank you.
You know, Stacy talked about her representing, hundreds of community development organizations around the state, and she does, but be assured that nothing happens in the halls of the State House without Stacy Berger and the Housing and Community Network being represented. Yes, it takes advocacy, strong advocacy. I don't know if anyone has any questions, but we did allot some time for Q&A. But I think the message we're here to deliver today is that this budget that Governor Murphy put forth and that the legislature worked with him to deliver to the people of New Jersey is a historic budget. I was sitting there thinking of some of the other things that this budget cycle produced under our administration. I look at East Orange, I look at Main Street, Central Avenue. There are funds that have been committed to help small business owners this go-round. We talk about development, and a lot of times, a lot of small minority-owned construction companies, general contractors feel that they don't get opportunities. This budget also contains a significant investment in a pool of funds exclusively set aside for minority, women, and veteran-owned businesses. So our message here today to the people of the city of East Orange and to the people around the state, we are a people-focused administration. We really are on top of the needs of our middle class and working class families, and for the next 3.5 years, we will continue to carry forth that agenda. Thank you for coming today, everyone.